Russia is firing cruise missiles at Ukraine. 3 nights and counting, there's been intense bombardment, and this offensive has claimed an unlikely victim: food grains. That's right, food is the new casualty of this war. Not the first time though, but on this occasion the crisis is grave. Russian missiles are hitting Ukraine and the impact is being felt all the way here in India. New Delhi has been forced to make some tough calls. India has banned the export of rice, and it's a very big deal because India is the world's biggest exporter of rice. And now it has stopped. This has led to panic in the global markets. Look at the headlines that went viral today. The West is worried about the consequences of India's move. They fear it will push up global prices and in turn worsen their cost of living crisis. So what is India's view? What's the strategy and how will it impact the world? We'll try to answer all these questions tonight, starting with how this crisis began. This week, Russia intensified the attacks on Ukraine. Their missiles hit the port of Odessa. For Moscow, these bombings are a retaliation, revenge for the attack on Crimea, which happened earlier this week. The Kerch Bridge was targeted. It is very important for Moscow. It connects Crimea with mainland Russia. Ukraine did not take responsibility for the strike, but Putin blames Kiev for what happened, and so he's striking back hard. The Russian attacks took lives. At least 2 people have died, more than 20 others were hurt. They also damaged large stocks of food. Some 60,000 tons of grain was burnt. Terminals and piers were damaged. And all of it had a bearing on the global markets. They went into a tizzy. Prices shot up dramatically, especially wheat. Wheat prices increased by more than 7%. This is the largest increase since February last year. Why such a sharp reaction? Why are the markets in panic? Because Moscow has called off the grain deal, the Black Sea Initiative. It was brokered by the United Nations. It allowed Ukraine to ship food grains to the world. Now Russia has pulled the plug. It says Ukraine is misusing this deal. Now the world was already suffering a shortage. Russia's move has made it worse. Before the war, Ukraine and Russia were key sources of grains for the whole world. We're talking about 1/4 of the world's wheat exports, 1/5 of the maize and barley exports. All of this came from Ukraine and Russia. But the war dealt a blow to this supply. The attacks on the Odessa port have made it worse. And what happens when there is a shortage? When traditional suppliers cannot lift the burden, what happens then? Someone else has to step in. So international buyers turn to India. But India does not have so much to spare, it seems. It has the world's largest population. It has to feed its people. Last year, India banned the export of wheat as well, and that ban still remains in place. Now India has banned rice too, the export of rice. This is spooking the world because India is the largest exporter. 40% of the world's rice needs are met through India. 140 countries get their rice from India. In 2022, India exported more than 22 million tons of rice. That's more supply than the next 4 exporters put together. Which are these next 4 exporters? Which countries? Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, and the United States. So you can see the demand. The orders are coming from everywhere, but now Indian rice is set to go out of the global market. Reports say some varieties can still be exported, but the ban includes 2 of India's largest export categories: non-basmati white and broken rice. Their export is banned. Some experts say they saw this coming because before the ban, India also tried to restrict these exports. Last year, a new export tax was introduced. All rice exports carried a 20% tax. Which brings us to the question, why is this being done? Why the ban? Like I said, India has its own demand to meet. Plus, there are shortages. Heavy rains have hit supplies. Prices in India are soaring. In the last 12 months, the price of rice has gone up by more than 11%. In the last month, the increase has been 3%. How do you tame this? By improving the supply, so the exports will have to take a back seat. Plus, we don't really know where this war is going, for how long it will go on, for how long the supply from Ukraine will remain disrupted. There is no clarity. So India is planning for the road ahead, striking a balance between export orders and domestic demand. And that's been the case since last year. In fact, when India banned the export of wheat, there was considerable global backlash. But India resisted that pressure. And now it has added rice to the list of banned items. You know what else is on this list? Sugar. Not a complete ban, but in September last year, India restricted the export of sugar too. Producers were given an export quota, 6.1 million tons. You cannot export more than that. And as of May this year, the month of May this year, Indian sugar mills had already consumed this entire export quota. Now, here's something you should know. These export bans are also signs of stress. India too is experiencing a cost of living crisis. It is not extreme as in the West, but prices of staples have seen a rise in India as well. For example, vegetable prices, they jumped by 12% between May and June. Our viewers in India would know about the tomato prices. There has been a 300% jump. Earlier, the cost of 1 kilo was about 25 rupees. Now it is well over 100. Floods in tomato producing states have led to a shortage. And overall, inflation is not cooling just yet. Last month, India's retail inflation shot up by 4.8%. This was a 3-month high. What is retail inflation? It deals with the prices of goods, the kind that you consume on a daily basis. They're becoming more expensive. Moral of the story, India is not immune to world events. Yes, the crisis is not half as bad as elsewhere, but prices are going up. Russian missiles are not just causing damage in Ukraine, they're also disrupting the global food market. And India is responding by looking after its own people first before helping the world.